Donald Trump just implicated himself when asked about Epstein, and I just cannot believe he said this. And we also have some news coming out from Ghislaine Maxwell, who has petitioned the Supreme Court. I got some thoughts about why she's doing that and how that relates to everything else going on. And then JD Vance, which I'm going to get to right now, sounded very defensive when talking about Donald Trump and the Epstein problem.
I guess I'm going to be that person. There are some protesters outside accusing the GOP of protecting pedophiles, and we're wondering what you think are the reasons the U.S. government should shield the client list of Epstein from the public, and what you have to say about any relevance to that here today.
Well, let me say just a couple of things. First of all, the president has been very clear. We're not shielding anything. The president has directed the attorney general to release all credible information and, frankly, to go.
Again, what makes it credible? Who determines what is credible? Just release everything. Just release everything. It's obvious that Donald Trump, and I'm going to show you in this clip coming up, Donald Trump knows that what's in those files is not good.
And find additional credible information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's been incredibly transparent about that stuff, but some of that stuff takes time. You've got to assemble that stuff. You've got to compile that stuff. You've got to redact some victims' names so that you protect the victims. But the president has been very clear. He wants full transparency. He's asked that from the attorney general, and I know, because I talk to her all the time, the attorney general is hard at work on that issue right now. But I think I got to make an observation that there's an interesting thing about this case that the American media seems to totally ignore. For 4 years, under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For literally 20 years, the story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George.
Barack Obama had nothing to do with this. I'm going to have a clip for you in just a moment where we can refute that very easily, because this is a new talking point. But Donald Trump isn't being transparent, as we all know, because he released the MLK Jr. files. Just released them all. Didn't have to ask anyone. Just did it because he can do that. He's not doing that with this. I wonder why. Now, I'm not going to show any more of this man lying, but I am going to show you Jake Tapper, who I'm not a fan of, but at least in this moment, he was doing a good job of fact-checking this Senator Mark Wayne, who just would not stop lying.
And that's why Attorney General Bondi was saying for months. Well, then tell me why for months she was saying that she's going to release the information tomorrow.
We made the assumption that the judges would release the order and allow the evidence that they had, that it could be heard. But it's all been sealed. And so if it's been a sealed case, we can't release it until the judges allow us to release it. And you would think common sense would play. That's why they asked for transparency. We want transparency. We want the judges to have transparency in this too. But remember, there was a plea deal that was struck in 2009, way before I was in office, way before Trump was even considering to be in office, way before Pam Bondi was in office, way before Kash Patel was director. 2009, there was a sweetheart plea deal that was made underneath the Obama administration with Epstein.
Right. That's not
and
right.
that sweetheart has not been exposed.
No, it was 2000.
Oh, it's not? Well, when was the case heard?
It was 2008. It was the U.S. attorney at the time was a guy named Alex Acosta. He was a Bush appointee. He went on to become President Trump's Secretary of Labor. It all took place in 2008.
Who was in office at the time?
2008, George W. Bush.
Who was in office at the time?
George W. Bush.
No, 2009 is when the case came out, and it was and Obama was in office at the time.
It's not true. But let me ask you a question.
It's not true. It's not true. Thank you, Jake Tapper. Can you just do that all the time? Can you just be, I don't know, a journalist? But thank you for being a journalist in that moment. Now, Donald Trump was asked by other journalists because he's actually in Europe right now, and so European reporters are not scared of asking the President of the United States questions, unlike what happens here in America. And because of that, we're actually getting some pretty interesting comments from Donald Trump. Here's the first one where he said this. I personally believe this implicates him.
That was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
I never had the privilege of going to the island. See, he always slips up because no one would think it's a privilege to go to that island when we know what happened there, unless, of course, you wish you could have went to the island. Now, I don't know whether or not he went. He says he turned it down. I tend to believe whatever Donald Trump accuses others of, he's actually done himself. And the fact he's bringing up Bill Clinton and Larry Summers, to me, says that that's what Ghislaine Maxwell is about to do. She's about to drop all of those names. Apparently, she gave more than 100 names to Donald Trump's former personal attorney, who's now the second in command of the Department of Justice. And we are now learning, too, that Ghislaine Maxwell has filed a reply brief to SCOTUS to toss her conviction, saying that the U.S. violated its own immunity deal when it prosecuted her. And so here's what I think is happening here. Donald Trump's lawyer met with Ghislaine, said, hey, file this. We have the votes in the Supreme Court. This way you can get out of your sentence. You can release all of these names. You can say, as long as you say Donald Trump is innocent, you're going to be scot-free. Can you do that for us? And think that's why this is happening now. None of this is unrelated. This is a series of events that are happening for a very specific reason. We have to pay attention to it. Now, if you want more people to pay attention to this, hit like and subscribe if you want to keep following the story, because we have been relentless on this thing. We're not going to let up. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Now, Donald Trump didn't stop there. He says, and this is a new line, he said the Epstein files, well, I'll let him say.
I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like, as an example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. The whole thing was a fake. They can put things in the file that are fake. But those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and then he gave out because he was 25 points down? And then I got somebody new. Nobody even knew anything about her. She was a horrible vice president.
Okay, so Donald Trump here saying that the files are doctored means to me that what's in there are very bad for him. And now I just want to answer that real fast. The reasons why Joe Biden and our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who never even prosecuted this guy until it was too late, it would have been highly, highly unusual for Joe Biden to order for those files to be released. And now I know we are kind of existing in a time when we have Donald Trump, who has full authority over the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, but that's typically not how this works. In fact, this is very unusual, and it's a sign of an authoritarianism rise in our country. But typically, the president doesn't tell the attorney general what to do. There's independence. And so the reason why that never happened is because Merrick Garland doesn't have a fighting bone in his body. Joe Biden allowed the independence of the Department of Justice. And 3, it would have been highly unusual for them to do that without any kind of reason or precedent. So we're going to keep following this, but I want to share some good news with you, because we just got an announcement from Roy Cooper, who was the governor of North Carolina. He's now running for Senate. This is a very flippable seat in the Senate, and I think we just have to control the Senate, because if not, then Donald Trump could very potentially nominate at least 2 very young Supreme Court justices. So this is very, very, very important. Here's his announcement video, which I think is brilliant, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
It wasn't always this hard, because being in the middle class meant something. You could afford a home, your kids went to good schools, your job paid enough to cover the basics, and most summers you could get away for a few days. For the most part, life was pretty good. I'm Roy Cooper, and I know that today for too many Americans, the middle class feels like a distant dream. Meanwhile, the biggest corporations and the richest Americans have grabbed unimaginable wealth at your expense. It's time for that to change. I grew up in Nash County working on the farm every summer. My mom was a public school teacher, my dad a small-town lawyer and farmer. It's where I started my family, taught Sunday school for years, and started my law practice that helped everyday people and small businesses. When you made me your attorney general, I prosecuted criminals and took on scammers, big banks, and drug companies. When you made me your governor, we balanced the state budget every year and worked with Republicans to raise teacher pay, recruit thousands of better-paying jobs, and expand Medicaid to more than 650,000 working North Carolinians. But right now, our country's facing a moment as fragile as any I can remember. And the decisions we make in the next election will determine if we even have a middle class in America anymore. I never really wanted to go to Washington. I just wanted to serve the people of North Carolina right here where I've lived all my life. But these are not ordinary times. Politicians in D.C. are running up our debt, ripping away our health care, disrespecting our veterans, cutting health for the poor, and even putting Medicare and Social Security at risk just to give tax breaks to billionaires. That's wrong, and I've had enough. I've thought on it and prayed about it, and I've decided I want to serve as your next United States Senator. Because even now, I still believe our best days are ahead of us. I love North Carolina, and I know you do too. I need you to be with us, and I can't wait to see you out there.